All right, guys, we are back in my garage for another video, and the last video I posted has gone completely crazy. I know typically viral videos do a lot more than that, but at least in the case of how things perform on my channel, that's my version of going viral. We're at almost 40,000 views in 48 hours, which is just completely insane. So I really do appreciate all of you guys that watched the video, everybody that subscribed to the channel. I really do appreciate you guys. Now, obviously, a lot of you guys are new to the channel. You haven't really been following my videos, and that was kind of another video just in a line of things I've been talking about for a while. And so I left out some information, and I saw a lot of questions in the comments that I wanted to address. So in this video, I'm going to try to answer all of those questions for you guys that are new and saw the video and immediately started panicking. You missed a little bit of the backstory, but I'll use this video to fill you in. So let's go ahead and talk about it, and hopefully you guys find this video useful. Now, as always, for everybody that's new to the channel, I create these videos to help keep you updated on the latest developments in our community, as well as discuss technical topics so that we have a better understanding of how our engines work. So if you're interested in more videos like that, be sure to subscribe because there will be a lot more coming out in the future. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. The first question is, what does a black guy know about the B58? I am so glad you asked. I know it's 2024 and a lot of you are surprised that we're reading books, much less know how engines work, but let's go ahead and dive into some of my credentials for those of you that are new. So I myself am not a BMW engineer, I'm not a BMW mechanic, but I am a BMW owner and a BMW enthusiast. I've been into German cars for a long time, and I finally got into a BMW in 2017 when I bought my 440i, and then in 2022 I bought a 340i. So I'm pretty well versed in the B58. Both of my cars have upgraded turbos, upgraded fuel systems, running on E85 and custom tunes. I've done suspension upgrades, I've done track days, I've done a lot of different things to enjoy my cars. So most of what you'll see on the channel is either information that I've researched and learned myself, so I'm sharing with you guys, or things that I've tested on my own car and I'm just sharing my experiences. So this whole channel is kind of built on helping those of you that are interested in this platform understand what options you have available to help you reach your goals, just because I wish I had somebody like this when I got started modifying my cars. So that's the whole background behind it. I don't know everything, but anytime I do find out information, I like to create a video to share it with my audience. Now, specifically related to the Gen 3, I've been talking about this for a little over a year. I actually had the first video on YouTube talking about some of the details we knew were coming when it was originally put into the X7. So I put together a playlist, and I'll have that link down in the video description if you guys want to read through all of the stuff that we know about the Gen 3 B58 so far. Also, shameless plug, yes, I am a B58 owner, and I started B58 Owners Club. We have an Instagram page where we share each other's cars to help you find different cars, get inspiration for your build and things like that. So follow us, tag us, you'll be in a line to get your car posted on our page. And also we do have merch available, just like this shirt, and it does go on sale from time to time, including now it is 20% off. So definitely check that out if you guys are interested in supporting. Now, the most common question by far is which cars have the Gen 3 B58. So let's go ahead and talk about the ones that we know that have it so far. The first cars to get it were the 2023 7 Series and the 2023 X7. BMW released new generations of these vehicles, and at that time, they introduced the new engines. So if you have a 740i that looks like this, or you have an X7 40i that looks like this, then it has the Gen 3 B58. Now, the following year, BMW introduced it to the 5 Series. The 2024 5 Series was a brand new generation, and BMW also did a refresh on the 2024 X5. So if you have a 540i that looks like this, or an X540i that looks like this, then you have the Gen 3 B58. And then finally this year, we started seeing it trickle down to the 3 and 4 Series. So the 2025 M440i that looks like this got its LCI refresh. You can tell by the redesigned headlights. And this car has the Gen 3 B58. And now pretty much the most recent one is the 2025 M340i, as well as the 2025 X3, which now instead of calling it the M40i, they're calling it the M50. But that car has the Gen 3 B58 as well. Now, you can't tell as easily which 3 Series has the Gen 3 B58 because their mid-cycle refresh was a while ago. So you'll just have to pay attention to the model year. If it's a 2025 M340i, then it has the Gen 3 B58, and the upcoming X3 M50 is also going to have the Gen 3 B58. Now we anticipate it's going to work its way down to the M240i next year. We haven't gotten a confirmation yet, so just keep your eyes out on that, but it is not in the M240i yet. And also like the 2 Series Grand Coupes and the current 1 Series X1 and X2, those are based on mini platforms, so they're only going to get the 4-cylinder engines. You won't ever get a Gen 3 B58 in those cars. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the cylinder deactivation comments that I'm seeing. A lot of people are saying that this chase for emissions and using cylinder deactivation will never work. All these other platforms like Chevy engines and stuff like that have tried it, and they have these long-term issues, so they don't know why BMW tried it. And I want to specify that this is not the cylinder deactivation you probably think it is. Most cars, for example, with like a V8, they'll set it up so that it just runs on 4 cylinders. And that way it has enough torque and power to maintain speed, but it's not going to give you the maximum amount of power, and thus you'll be able to save fuel. Now, in those cases, it's very different from what BMW is doing. I specifically tried to say that it is exhaust valve deactivation. And the way that it works is when those rockers are disengaged, the exhaust valves cannot open. So what we're basically experiencing here is the valve staying shut and everything inside of the engine is not pumping air through like it normally would. So on my Gen 1 B58 and pretty much all modern BMWs, when you come off of the throttle, the fuel stops spraying. That's normal. It's basically just going to use the rolling speed of your car to charge your battery. The alternator is going to continue to turn, and it keeps all the electronics working the way that they should. But it's not going to spray fuel when you're not on the throttle because that saves gas. So now this takes it a step further and basically keeps that valve shut so the cylinder isn't pumping air through like normal. Now, again, I don't fully understand how this works. They try to explain in the technical documentation that it reduces some losses so that they're able to regain more energy and pump that into the hybrid system. Doesn't 100% make sense to me, but that was the goal there. So it's not specifically turning off certain cylinders and disabling your fuel system. It's basically shutting off the valves for all 6 cylinders at the same time. So all of that energy is getting pumped into the hybrid system. Now, this is also interesting because it does explain why the diverter valve came back. And we mentioned that briefly, but again, I didn't fully have all the information. But on the Gen 1 and Gen 2 B58, there's no blow-off valve, there's no diverter valve. When you come off of the throttle after being in a positive boost pressure situation, all of that air gets pumped through the cylinder head and it's managed by your Vanos system. So it's using your valve timing to let all the air flow through the cylinder head and prevent you from having excess built up pressure inside of your charge system. Now that the exhaust valves can stay shut, it can't do that. So they had to bring the diverter valve back. So now they have a way to manage excess air when you're coming off a boost. So that does kind of come full circle and explain why that is. Now, the next question everybody's asking is, can the car be tuned? Can it be coded out? Can it be disabled? Can I use a specific driving mode to keep it off? And we don't fully have information about how the drive modes work. Presumably in sport mode, you'll have better throttle response, stiffer suspension, but it probably won't disable the hybrid system. I'm not 100% confirmed on that, but I would expect this to work regardless of what drive mode you're in. Now, as far as tuning and coding, remember that these cars have a brand new DME. So even the cars from 2020 up until now that have been able to do the femto unlock and the DME cloning to get a tune on their cars, this completely restarts the clock now. So you are not able to send the DMEs for these Gen 3 B58s to Fem2 or anybody else to get them tuned. Your only option right now is a piggyback tune like a JB4. So I don't know of any way to code it out. That's why in my video I said, hopefully there's like a mechanical way that you can disable it or something like that and keep the rockers always engaged. But we're gonna need some time before somebody does the R&D to develop a system like that. Now, the other thing people asked is the issue, the oil weight, which some of you were familiar with. You asked me to follow up on a video I made, a little over a year ago. And some of you, this was new information. You're like, how can they be using 0W12? Now, you know me as an engineer, I do feel like there are ways that we can make thinner oils work safely in our engines. I don't know about the 0W12. That's why I said we want to wait and see how it does. And some of the things that we're seeing with cam scoring and cylinder head damage could be attributed to using the 0W12 oil. But like I said in the video, BMW does allow you to use thicker oil. They're even telling their BMW technicians that they can use thicker oil if they don't have 0W12 available. So there should be a wide variety of options. Check your manual if you have one, and it should show you various weights, as well as the actual BMW certification you should be looking for if you want an oil that's compatible with your engine. And you can get the thickest oil on that list if you want, and it should work perfectly fine. Now, we also had a lot of people say, oh, well, of course this is happening because Toyota didn't develop it now, which is funny because I just recently, about a month or two ago, talked about the BMW-Toyota relationship in developing the B58. So definitely check out that video if you guys are interested. But for those that are curious, I highly anticipate this will never get in the Supra. The Supra is almost hitting its end of life cycle. It's probably got another year, maybe 2 years max before it's discontinued. So no, I definitely wouldn't hold my breath and wait to see if the Gen 3 ends up in the Supra. Now, of course, a lot of you guys are asking how widespread is it? Some of you are saying I'm just making this video for clicks. I'm just, trying to create sensationalized content when only 3 vehicles have this issue, right? And so I was bringing this to you guys because, again, we have been talking about this for a while. I have mechanics sending me messages and pictures of cars that they've been working on. And it just so happened that the specialist posted that video on Instagram as well. So it motivated me to make the video since it was kind of like out there a little bit more. So I wasn't even the first one to share this information. It was being shared on Instagram and stuff like that. I just made a YouTube video to cover the details I was already seeing. But if you yourself are curious, you can at any time look up recalls, technical service bulletins, manufacturer communications, all of that on the NHTSA website. Companies have to publicly post up the information for some of their recalls and things like that on there. And so it's available to the public. So all I did was put in 2023 BMW X7, and look at that. There's a voluntary recall saying that the return springs on the exhaust cam followers, switchable rocker arms may break. So yes, BMW is acknowledging this themselves. No, they don't do this just because 3 cars are having an issue. They usually try to lock it down to specific production dates, especially if they have a fix in place, which in my mind is probably either a stiffer and stronger spring or some calibration to how the exhaust deactivation works. But whatever it is, it's something that they know is a problem, and they've alerted their dealerships on how to address it. Now, the last question I want to address is, does this affect other vehicles? Some of you guys asked about B48s, and yes, this is also being used in the B48 TU2. The Gen 3 B48 also has the port injection. It also has eVano. So basically everything you see in the B58 update is also in the B48 update. So some pros, some cons. I know most of us are focused on that port injection aspect and being able to support a lot of power with a new intake manifold, but it's also got the efficiency improvements. It's also got the hybrid setup and all of that as well. The other one you guys asked me about was the S68, and you were curious if it has any of these emissions features and things like that, which it does not appear to have. And I believe that's specifically because it's an S-Series engine. The S-Series engines are designated for M vehicles. BMW is just now putting it in other cars that you wouldn't generally expect it to be, like the X7. But now that we've seen it come out in the M5, it's obvious that that's what it was designed for. And even though the M5 is a behemoth, it's extremely heavy, and the hybrid system is way overkill for anybody that wants a performance vehicle, that is built into their design for how they want it to work. So they want it to be a performance engine. They're focusing on that and not the efficient aspect of it. So I even saw in some of the documents, they were saying that cars with the S68 aren't necessarily going to be able to run on purely electric mode. They just aren't going to have some of those features or capabilities that are coming to the B48 and B58 variants. Those are the ones that are designed to be the gas savings, high efficiency vehicles. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers all the main questions you guys were asking. Again, I will continue to make content on this as things progress. If I ever own one, I'll obviously share it on the channel, and there will be more videos coming on my personal builds, different things that I do with my cars, and new information that I found out. So again, thank you to all the new people that are stopping by. Hope you decide to stay. But either way, I hope this video was helpful to you guys. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope this helps. And if you have any other questions or comments, leave them down below.